Welcome back. My name is Amanda Zanette. Today we are going to be talking about Activity 1. So Activity 1 is where we're going to begin to introduce the game. So what I like to do at the beginning of the year is I like to start off with asking students, what is a community? Because we can't make the assumptions that they know exactly what that is. And we also have new perspectives from different students and what their community may look like in a different country, a different city, a different school. So we have that conversation first, and then I narrow it down into looking at the table, which you're going to find in the activity outline, and I ask them, what does a city look like as a community? And then I get them to compare it to a classroom. So in the past, they'll talk about, they always like to share stories about, oh, our community looked like this in our classroom, which I think is great for students to have an understanding of. Classrooms are always running differently. So then you want to ask them, how do you want this one to look? And so what I do is that there are some prompts in the activity that ask the students questions. And while they're comparing the class community to a city community by answering those questions, you're going to start to slowly integrate the game throughout those discussions so that they can start to see how it's going to look with the city game. Okay, so that's what this activity, lesson number 1, is about. After that, you're going to move into lesson 2. Now, lesson 2 is titled, Whose Job Is It? This is one where there's an appendice with a list of a few of the jobs, just a few of them, and it's very briefly summarized. And the students are each going to have a copy of that. I tend to do one per city, just so you're saving paper. But what you're going to do is you're going to give the kids time to take a look at those jobs. You can discuss them with them, and then you're going to give them a scenario. And now there is an example scenario in your activity outline. And what you're going to do is you're going to read that to them, and the whole class is going to discuss what that looks like, who would be stepping in that scenario. Next, you're going to give each city a cutout of a different scenario. You'll see that in the appendices as well. And you want to give students time on their own, without the teacher, to discuss whose job would it be in this situation. Afterwards, they share it out loud, and it's just for the students to slowly get integrated with how would the city game look within their classroom. Finally, lesson 3, you are going to want to address any questions that have come up through those lessons, and it's up to you. You could break the lesson up, one in the morning, one in the middle of the day, or decide to do it the next day. But by the 3rd lesson, you're going to want to address any questions that the students had, and then this is where you introduce a parent letter. So the parent letter, I like to read it out loud to the students. And then what I do is I ask the students, bring that home and get it signed. Now this is a fun part. What I like to do is I like to bribe my students with money. And this is the first time in the year where I start to tell them, if you get your letter in by this date, I will give you $100 towards your bank account. And they get very excited. They haven't started banking yet, but I write it on a class list and I save it until their first payday. So then I tell students, if you get it on this date, it's $100, and then I start to decrease it. Maybe 2 days later, it's $50, etc. This pushes the students to go and have that conversation with families and for them to get it back in so that they're all on board when you go to teacher following lessons. So thank you for listening. I hope you visit us and follow us along in Activity 2.